cross, and they try to stop him as we say. Kenny Burkhardt behind home plate. Lee Wire. Next hello, Dick Cello. And I can't catch it. It looks like Danny Olson. And he was almost beamed by a pitch from Tom Seaver. Really interesting with pitcher's standpoint. And his feeling is that Dock Ellis will go 6 innings, possibly 7, depending on what kind of a ball game it is. And much the same with Tom Seaver. Seaver had some arm problems in spring training. And the first couple times out, came up with a stiffness in the shoulder that toward the end of the swing, he was supposed to be going free and easy once again. But he will go 6 innings or 80 pitches, whichever comes first. And both managers will be taking very close watch of pitchers and some of the other ball players that may have injury problems, such as Willie Stargell of the Pirates, making sure that they do not sustain any problems or any serious injuries early in the season. Conditioning's a funny thing. It takes you about 3 or 4 weeks to really get in good shape. It only takes you about 4 or 5 days to get out of it. And Burton, of course, well aware of that situation. Long conversation with him on the plane coming in from Pittsburgh to New York last night. Bill was telling me that it was his opinion that the most important part of any season, from his standpoint as a manager and a player, is spring training. He said if you get physically ready, you are then mentally ready to play baseball. Of course, the strikes in the delay is some 12, 15 days without any workout. They've taken the edge off everything, and it's kind of a funny opening of the season. The emotions are not the same as you might expect had it started regularly, one of its scheduled. The anticipation of everything is just not the same. Defensively for the Mets, we've got Jim Fregosi at third base, and he's in about the 40th third base the Mets have had, but a very accomplished performer for the California Angels at a shortstop position. This is here to win at third base. The shortstop, Bud Harrelson, one of the fine shortstops in all of baseball. Ken Boswell at second has had some arm problems. Eddie Kranepool at first. In the outfield, a very fine trio of Cleon Jones LF, Tommie Agee in center, and Rusty Staub in right field. The catcher, one of the best defensive catchers in the National League, Jerry Grote, and then the pitcher right-hander, Tom Seaver. The premier pitcher in all of baseball last year, from a standpoint of earned run average, with a 1.76, and he thought he pitched better last year than he has many times in his career. It started in 1967. His first major league start was against the Pirates, and since then he's done very well. He has a lifetime record of 9-3 against the Bucs, an overall record of 95 wins and 54 losses with 5 years of pitching. Quite a performance. He is 27 years of age. Rennie Stennett leads it off, and here's the opening pitch of the 1972 baseball season. The world champion Pirates put it on the line. Seaver's lined up. The pitch is fouled. Out of play, right field side. Rennie Stennett has never hit against Tom Seaver before. He said, I'm just looking for something right, and I'm going to hit it. The Mets showed him to right field. Here's Seaver's second pitch. The curveball is outside. The count is 1 ball and 1 strike. A 1 ball, 1 strike pitch. Curveball right on the corner. Taking strike 2. Seaver that time put up on the river. The Mets in San Francisco, the only 2 clubs in the major leagues with in the National League with an edge over the Pirates last year. Fastball just outside. The count is 3-2. The weather today is similar to the kind of a day it was last year when Seaver beat the Pirates 1-0 the first time out here. He struck out 14. 2-2 pitch. Just on the corner, taken by Stennett, struck 3. He started to go, stepped off, and it's up. Well, Stennett strikes out looking. He doesn't do that very often. And the pitch was a little bit questionable. They looked back at Burkhardt, but then took off in the dugout. Oliver, hit 282 last year, 14 home runs, 64 RBIs, and had a great last 2 months of the season. He was sharp in spring training. Changed curve in the dirt, ball 1. Mets are playing him straight away. Both Staub in left field and Jones in... The ball whipped into left field in front of the left fielder Cleon Jones for a base hit. I tried to say both Staub in right field and Jones in left field were getting in the line, and they were bunching him towards center. But Oliver hits the first hit of the season, loops a single in front of the left fielder Cleon Jones. Seaver, as you might expect, is not quick today, as he expected to be had he had the full spring training routine going for him. He is not reaching back and throwing hard. year, he just blew everybody out of the box with 14 strikeouts in his first appearance against the Pirates. Bobby Clemente, with a great World Series behind him. Fouls went out of play behind the home plate area. Strike one. Clemente finally getting the recognition due him for so many premier seasons in the National League, and he finally had the right billboard for it in the World Series, and he proved to everybody, and he without a doubt is the finest baseball player in the game today. Fastball taken by Bobby, strike two. No ball, 2 strikes. The players were kidding Clemente on the bus coming out, saying that you never can hit Seaver, and of course, if there's something Clemente has, it's strike. Swing and a strike two. And Seaver picks up 2 strikeouts. Will be way behind the pitchers with this situation. A lot of people think it's the other way around, but when you talk to baseball players, they'll tell you the pitchers can go on the side and stay a little bit sharper. The hitters have to see good game competition pitching to get sharp. Willie Stargell steps in for his first time. He's always hit well in this ballpark. Henry serves me right, hit the first home run in this park. Stargell hit 295. That's a big guy, 48 home runs, 125 RBI. That fastball turned loose by Seaver. Off the outside corner on Stargell, strike one. Oliver at first base is 2 down, no score, top of the first. Curveball, swinging and a base, strike two. You do not expect a big strikeout performance by any pitcher, but Seaver is canceling that shot very quickly. He's just picked up 2 strikeouts so far. And he's 1 pitch away from the third. Here's the pitch, and he just missed that side. The fastball tailed away. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The shift is on with Bud Harrelson playing just about behind the bag. He shaded to the third base side. It's shortstop. And the pitch, curveball, ripped foul off the first base side. Just foul. He almost got the first base umpire. Big Lee Wire. Wire's at first base. Andy Olson's at second. Dick Stello at third, and Kenny Burkhardt working behind the plate. That's the umpiring lineup for this opening game. Had some big days in this ballpark, and he hit a lot of home runs, and one memorable one, of course, off the right field scoreboard off Ed Mcgraw a couple of years ago. Tried to second on the fourth, didn't do it, and Seaver strikes out the side in the fourth out. For the Pirates, no runs on a hit, no errors, and we stand one. We go to the bottom half of the first. It's the score of 6.
Well, Tom Seaver with the top earned run average in the major leagues last season, off with a great start for 1972, striking out the side in the top half of the first inning. The only hit there coming with Oliver's single to left field. But other than that, he strikes out the side. On the scoreboard, Milwaukee and Cleveland are more postponed because of wet grounds. Chicago at Kansas City, Wood versus Drago. Minnesota and Oakland in a night game. Texas at California in a night game in the American League. In the National League, Pittsburgh at New York. Montreal is at St. Louis. Philadelphia, Chicago. Those 2 teams scoreless after an inning. Carlton versus Jenkins. Los Angeles and Cincinnati. The Dodgers are leading that ball game 1-0. That's a national telecast of that ball game. And the Dodgers scored. Frank Robinson drove in Willie Davis from second base. And so it's 1-0 Dodgers, top of the first inning. Sutton is pitching in that game against Billingham.
Well, we sent along our best wishes to Mike Routon, recovering from a mild stroke, and hope that things are well for him. And we bid our adieu to Bill Christine, who has covered the Pirates for the last couple of seasons. Bill will be leaving the Pittsburgh class and going on to Chicago. He'll be moving over to the football team there, we understand. Sorry to see him go. Here it is riding. That's our Routon. We'll back at it very shortly. We'll give you more details about Bud Harrelson opens it up for the Mets against Dock Ellis, who last year was 3-1 against this ball club, and overall 19 wins. He's a switch hitter, started to go, and did he save it? Evidently he did. Look for an appeal play, and the third base umpire, Dick Stello, said he didn't go around. The count is 1 ball and 1 strike. Now Ellis in spring training worked only 19 2/3 innings. He liked to go about 30 or so, but as he said, because of the shortened spring session, they didn't get the work in. Fastball fouled out of play. The count is 1 ball and 2 strikes. Pirates finished 14 games ahead of the Mets last year, who did not support too much pitching at all. They just didn't score a run. The pitch here is expected to be a different kind of a ball club. The 1-2 pitch curved down low, blocked by Sanguillen. Full count, the count now evens at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Harrelson hit 252 last year. No home runs, 32 RBIs. And you may recall had a very quick start. Was hitting well over 350 about the middle of May, but it tailed off quite a bit. Curveball swung on and missed, struck 3. Every out recorded so far in this ballgame has been a strikeout. 3 by Seaver in the top of the first. And Ellis opens up with a sharp-breaking curveball to get Harrelson the first out in the next bottom half. Ellis led the Pirates in strikeouts last year in the pitching department, just 1 ahead of Steve Glass, despite the fact that Dock missed quite a bit of the tail end of the season because of that ailing elbow. Ken Boswell, who had his problems with an ailing right. Here, the pitch is on the corner, taken by Boswell, strike 1. Pirates have Hebner at third, Hernandez at shortstop. He's shifted close to the bag at second now. Stennett at second base, and Bobby Robertson to right. Sanguillen doing the catching, and Dock Ellis the pitching. The 0-1 pitch, soft weakly off the first base side. Robertson in has it, double Bobby Ellis at the bag, covering there, and the out is recorded. First base, the pitcher covering. 2 up, 2 down on the Mets first inning. And the batter will be Tommie Agee. The Mets success in 1972 is significant to be successful. If he can come back and have a good, healthy year, this Mets ball club with the addition of Rusty Staub is going to be mighty tough. And if Jerry Grote can come back and pitch as he did in 69. In 1972. Agee last year hit 14 home runs, drove in only 50. Curve, swung on a miss, strike 1. Tommie hit 285. Was hampered with an ailing knee throughout most of the season, and was really not 100% at any time. And he, like Bobby Tolan, can make things happen. Breaking ball by Ellis, who has shot a couple of good curveballs here so far in the first inning. The count is 0-2. Pitchers can get sharper throwing on the side than hitters can get sharp just taking batting practice. Game conditions are so important to hitters. More so than to a pitcher. The 0-2 pitch, no score, 2 down in the first, fouled out of play as he jammed with a fastball, and he was quite a bit behind on it. I think if Seaver and Ellis had their druthers on a game such as this, the opening game of the season in the situations they're coming off, they would like to have easy innings where batters are hitting the first pitch instead of strikeout performances. The 0-2 pitch, right on the corner, strike 3. Now we've had 5 strikeouts in the first inning of this ball game. Ellis getting 2 and Seaver getting 3. No runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left. They go to the top of the second inning. They're at the score of 2.
Well, this has to be somewhat of a surprise, although we've only completed 1 inning of play, but normally the thinking is that the hitters will be much ahead of the pitchers in the first 3 or 4 games of the season because of the layoff that the pitchers have had because of the delayed start of the season. Yogi Berra, the manager of the Mets, was asked if the delayed start would be like the beginning of spring training all over again. Yogi Berra talking with Andy Musser of CBS about his feelings at the beginning of the 1972 season. Now, one thing, too, that we'll be getting to is Sparky Anderson of the Cincinnati Reds, who also had a few comments about the start of the season. But that's generally the feeling, that the pitchers are going to have some problems and that we may see some relatively high-scoring ball games that you would not normally see.
Hebner leads it on to the Pirates in the top of the second inning in a scoreless ball game. Richie reporting a new number 3. He is taken away. The Pirates will retire on opening day, the 18th of April. Flight trainer number number 20. Hebner said, even if they hadn't, I didn't want to wear it. He had such respect for Phi Trainer, and of course, the death of Phi just about a month or so ago is a big loss to Richie. They were pretty close friends. Both of them third basemen in both. Natives of Massachusetts. Third ball by Seaver is outside for a ball. Fouled out of play by Richie. The count is 1 ball, 1 strike. Hebner's family in attending the ball game. His mother and father. They're always down here from Massachusetts, taking in the games when the Mets, when the Pirates are playing the Mets. Pretty close-knit group. Richie had his best RBI and home run year, despite missing about 3 or 4 weeks of the season. Hit 17, drove in 67. Jet missed outside, and the count is 2 balls and a strike. The announcement over the press box here is in relation to scores of other games. We cannot give them to you because the Western Union ticker is not operating here in any section of the press box. The games are underway in other ballparks in the National American League. Hebner fouls one back out of play. The count is 2 balls and 2 strikes. Other games in the National League, Atlanta's at San Diego, that's tonight. Los Angeles at Cincinnati. Montreal is at St. Louis. Philadelphia at Chicago this afternoon. And San Francisco and Houston playing tonight. Have lost 7 games, but some of the other clubs have lost 9. Fastball, then under the chin of Hebner, backs him off. The fight, the count is full. 3 balls, 2 strikes. The first full count of the 1972 season. Keeping tight on him. They try to jam Hebner. Most pitchers in the National League try to work him right on the inside corner. He's going to be very fine with it because this big guy has tremendous power. He can pull it or hit it deep to left center field. The 3-2 pitch again. Foul, back out of play. Seaver came up high with one. And he has to be right on plate. Came prepared to do better in this ballpark. It's Torpedo Alley here, and he had a glove and made a fine catch of it. More in self-defense than just trying to get it through the air. 3-2 pitch again. Ball hits first base side. 1 hopper to Kranepool. He'll take it out, sir. Cleon Hebner is out for the first out in the top of the second inning. That'll bring up Manny Sanguillen. A proud father in the off-season. He's a beautiful little boy. Manny Jr. and he has developed into the premier catcher in the National League. Johnny Bench tailing off quite a bit, and Sanguillen has come on. The last 3 years it's hit 303, 325, and 319. And you don't find that happening too much these days with catchers in the National or the American League. Kane's curve, bends in, taken by Manny, sack 1. No score in the game. We're in the top of the second, 1 down. Sidearm curve that time by Seaver. Missed outside, evens the count at 1 ball and 1 strike. Young deck batter, Bob Robertson. 1-1 pitch, chopped up the middle behind second. It's going to get through for a base hit. And Sanguillen, the first time up, has a single. Takes that wide turn, but Agee hustles it in there. Manny Sanguillen with a seeing eye bat. Continues to find holes every place, and he just got it past the shortstop. Bud Harrelson on into center field. That's the second hit of the ball game. Both of them by the Pirates. Oliver with a 1-out single in the first, and now Sanguillen a 1-out single in the second. Bobby Robertson, who carried the long ball for the Bucks in the playoff series and the World Series. Last year, 26 home runs. He's the batter. Cuts on a fastball, doesn't get it. Strike 1. Bobby, just 25 years of age, hit 271 last year and drove in 72. He did not think he had a good year. Here 1 pitch, swing and a miss, strike 2. Robertson will have problems because of long layoff, more than other hitters. He's a free swinger and will strike out quite a bit. So you're going to have patience with him. Talking to Bobby in the clubhouse, Bob and I, and he stated the same thing. He said, I'm not in the groove. A high fastball, a little bit too high, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Been the key to this guy's success the last 2 years. He stayed away from that high fastball. When he first came up, he used to chase it. Was quite a heavy strikeout victim. He led the Pirates in drawing walks last year. Takes the strike on the corner, strike 2. That's the 4th strikeout by Seaver. 6 strikeouts in the ball game by Ellis. He got 2 in the first inning, and now 4 by Seaver through 1 2/3. Pitching will dominate. Usually does early in the year, and certainly will in these situations with guys like Seaver and Ellis pitching. Jackie Hernandez hit 206 last year, 3 home runs, 26 RBIs, but what a job he did in the playoff in the series. Lines one in the right field, base hit, Sanguillen goes to second, and he'll hold up there. As Staub challenges him, held up on the throw, cut in Clucker, but he saw Sanguillen hold at second, and then hit the cutoff man, Ken Boswell. Now the Bucks have 3 hits, no runs so far, and the batter is Dock Ellis, with Sanguillen at second, and Jackie Hernandez at first base. That Seaver would go 6 innings or 80 pitches, whichever came first. And it appears the 80 pitches will come first. How long they'll go with that rule, we don't know, but that was stated prior to the game by Seaver himself. He's shown quite a few with the strikeouts and the base hits, too. Now the first run of the season, Sanguillen at second. Ellis, who helped himself last year with 12 RBIs, looks for the fastball. Strike one. Kenny Burkhart, the home plate umpire. Fregosi at third is about even with a bag. They're playing Ellis straight away in the infield, shaded to left field in the outfield. Doc started to chase the fastball, but checked off, and the count evens at 1 ball, 1 strike. Doc last year had 16 hits, and he led the Pirate pitchers in that category, and also on RBIs with 12. The 1-1 pitch, inside, ball 2. On deck batter, Rennie Stennett. Taking time to clean the mud out of his face. They had a little bit of rain here prior to game time. There was no batting practice at all. But there was infield practice. It was something the players needed. They didn't get the batting practice. 2 balls and a strike. The lift to second. The pitch to Ellis kicks weakly in front of the mound. Seaver in second. Gets the funny hopping ball. Throws high, almost threw it away. Kranepool came up with it. Henry ties the stride. No runs, 2 hits, no errors, and a couple left. We go to the bottom of the second, and it's still a scoreless game.
Okay, Mike Jorgensen, who was just traded from the New York Mets to Montreal, and that has paid off. He hit a home run with 1 on in the first inning. So in that ball game, in the top half of the first inning, Montreal is leading St. Louis at least 2-0. Stoneman is pitching against Gibson in that game. Elsewhere, Cleveland and Milwaukee have completed 2.5 innings of play. That's a 1-1 ball game. Parsons pitching against Perry. Boston leads Detroit 1-0 at the end of a half an inning of play. New York and Baltimore postponed because of wet ground. Nothing in yet on the Chicago-Kansas City game. Wood pitching against Drago. Minnesota and Oakland in a night game. And the probable pitchers, Bird Blyleven for the Twins, Kenny Holtzman for Oakland. Texas will be at California in a night game. Dick Bosman, 12-16, pitching for Texas. And for California, Andy Messersmith, he finished the season last year at 20-13. So that's it as far as the American League is concerned. I take a look at the National League. Los Angeles at Cincinnati underway. Don Sutton pitching against Jack Billingham. Atlanta is at San Diego. Phil Niekro pitching against Clay Kirby. Montreal at St. Louis. Bill Stoneman against Bob Gibson. And San Francisco is playing at Houston in a night game. Juan Marichal, 18-11 last year, will pitch against Don Wilson. And Wilson finished at 16-10. So those are the pitchers in the National League. The Atlanta-San Diego game, as we mentioned, is a night game along with the San Francisco-Houston contest. Everybody else is playing in the day. 1 rainout already. Postponed wet grounds, New York at Baltimore in the American League.
One of the real surprising trades and a very big one for the Mets just a week or so ago when they picked up Rusty Staub. They gave up Tim Foley, Mike Jorgensen, and Ken Singleton. 3 very fine young ball players. Ellis inside with a fastball, backs Staub off the plate. Rusty has hit 311 last year. He had 274 the year before that, and 302 in the 3 years at Montreal. But the big thing, RBIs. He hit 97 last year, 94 the year before, and 79 his first year up there in 69. A very popular baseball player in Canada, known as Le Grand Orange. And the move down here, surprisingly, cost him almost $500,000, they say. He had that much going for him in Montreal. Usually you make money when you come to New York. The count is a ball and 2 strikes on Staub. Curveball fouled and a very weak swing by Rusty. Ellis is really breaking off some good curveballs. No score in the game. We're in the bottom half of the second. And Staub is a lead-off batter. Hit .311 last year with 19 home runs, 97 RBI. Montreal Canadiens, and they're in business up in Canada together. Sort of a name of Ruth there for it, too. Staub gets the base hit, takes out the back. Has flipped it into left field. Now it's going to be a very fine season, I'm sure, for Staub, and the Mets fans are going to get to like this big fella. Staub has to be emotionally inspired more so with the Mets because of the fact that this ball club has a chance for picking up an Eastern Division title. Number 5 batter, Cleon Jones, the first base runner this year for the Mets, is Rusty Staub, opening up the second inning. Jones hit .319, 14 home runs. He led the Mets with 69 RBIs. Curve down low, ball 1. Cleon, just 29 years of age. Jones, Agee, and Staub is a pretty potent outfield. They can do the job for you both at the glove and the bat. Fastball taken by Jones, back low. They're very deep at third base. Anything hit weakly off that side will be a sure base hit. He's almost on the outfield grass. Hernandez, not quite so deep at shortstop, is shifted over towards center field. Quick toss to first. Staub is back in time. The outfield against Jones is pretty much straight away, although Oliver is shaded a little bit toward right center field. Big gap in left center for Cleon Jones. Robertson holds Staub at first. The 1-1 pitch, inside, backs them off the plate. 2 balls and a strike. The on-deck batter, Jim Fregosi, a fellow that we have not had a chance to see play. Hill is staring into the side from Manny Sanguillen. Comes to the stretch, checks Staub at first, and the pitch is wide up the middle, base hit. Staub rounds second base. Oliver in quickly will hold him out second. The Mets have runners at first and second. Nobody out, no out. He started here in the second inning. Let's pause. 20 seconds for a station identification on the Pirates Baseball Network.
In service for you. This is SCN Radio, 790 and 1420 in the Canal Zone.
His first out at bat for the Mets. He hit .233 last year with the California Angels. Curveball by Ellis is outside, ball 1. He's been a major league performer since back in 1961 with the Los Angeles Angels at that time. Of course, then he moved down to Anaheim in 1965 and were known as the California Angels. First All-Star game he played in was in this ballpark in 1964. He's been in 5 other All-Star games, a total of 6. Fastball at the knees taken by Fregosi. The count is 1 ball and 1 strike. Bill Rigney says that this guy will make the big plays for you. He'll get the big hits for you. There's a chance to drive and run here, and Ellis trying to stop him with a runner at second. Curve is down low. 2 balls and a strike. He almost pulled the trigger on it to check off. A while before the pitchers get a good book on Fregosi. It's an advantage for a hitter, more so than a pitcher, these situations. But the message gets around and the word gets around on hitters when they move from league to league. Bob Robertson right field, pretty deep. Well, now he's going, still going, and he can't get it. It's off the wall. Staub will score. Jones round third base. Will hold there, pitch throw to the plate, prevents the other run from scoring. But Staub scores, and Fregosi doubles and around his first time at bat. Put the ball very deep to right field. Hard to tell which way the wind is blowing in that ballpark, but it does not appear to be going to right field, and Fregosi showed exceptional power to right field. The Mets take a 1-0 lead. Jones at third base, still nobody out. 3 consecutive hits, and they've got activity for the first time in the Pirate bullpen. is the batter, left-handed hitter. The Pirates are playing back. They'll give up the run to get the out. Ball hit weakly off the first base side foul. Coaching there is Joe Pignatano. At third base, Teddy Oates. Yogi Berra, of course, has been the first base coach under Joe Hodges. Yogi now managing from the dugout. The other coach is Sheriff Robinson. He was with the Mets a couple of years ago, and Wes Preston was the manager. Hebner in with a bag at third. Looked there by Ellis. Here's the pitch to Kranepool. Pops him up to center field. Maybe deep enough to score a run. Stargell calling for it. Has a good arm. Jones will challenge it. Here's the throw. It is not in time. 2-0. The Mets lead. The Mets with 3 straight hits and a sacrifice fly have taken a 2-0 lead over Dock Ellis and the Pirates. Jerry Grote to capture. Number 8 hitter hit 270 last year. Steps in. Holding at second base is Jim Fregosi. Luke Walker loosening alone in the Pirate bullpen. Fregosi second base, not too much of a lead. Grody pops it up third base side. Calling for it. Hebner, Sanguillen also. Hebner wants it, and he's got it. Almost now podcast Sonac there is the noise of the crowd and the jets. Sanguillen and Hebner both had trouble hearing each other, and Hebner finally got the message through and made the foul ball catch. 2 down, 2-0. Mets leading here in the bottom half of the second. And Tom Seaver. Here's the batter. Peters in the broadcasting booth today, a very welcome addition. Earl Gordon, our engineer, enjoying a little bit more than I am. He's right underneath it. Pitch to Seaver, curveball taken by Tom, strike one. Seaver and Ellis, 27 years of age, both natives of California. Seaver 6 months older than Doc. Two of the fine right-handers in the National League. That's two of the fine pitchers in the National League. Right-handed or left-handed. 0-1 pitch. Curve outside. The count is 1 ball and 1 strike. Ellis' lifetime mark, 49 and 41. His best year last year. 19 wins and 9 losses. They had a 13-game winning streak at one time. Broken in July, late in July in Los Angeles. Look at second. Fregosi leads off. The fastball by Doc is outside. 2 balls and a strike. This inning opened with Rusty Staub punching a base hit into left field. Jones singled up the middle. Staub stopping at second. Then Fregosi doubled off the wall in right center. Going Staub, Jones going to third. Then the sacrifice fly by Kranepool. Played it in. Fly ball to center field. That's too deep. Oliver calling for it, and Scoop's got it. That'll retire the side. But the Mets break out in front with 2 runs on 3 hits, no errors, and they stand 1. Well, we've completed 2 innings of play, and the Mets now lead 2-0.
You heard Nellie King mention how cold it is in New York. Win Elliott of CBS checked in with some stadium operators around the East Coast to check weather at other stadiums. I called a ballpark which shall be unnamed, and I said, "Hi, this is Win Elliott, Sports Central USA. You probably know the show," and she said,
"No, I don't."
Nevertheless, what's the weather there?
The rain just stopped?
The rain just stopped? You make that sound like a question. Is there any question in your mind, for instance, who's going to win the National League pennant?
Cincinnati, how's that?
I told you they listen in Ohio. They aren't scheduled in Montreal. It's about 35 degrees up there, but if you were going to a ball game, we were advised.
So you have to dress very warm.
Dress very warm, and for company, bring along what?
A little bottle.
So that's the East Coast baseball weather just before the bottle, Mother. Okay, that's Win Elliott of CBS and East Coast baseball weather.
Seaver with a 2-0 lead to work on in the top of the third inning. We'll go at the top of the lineup again. Rennie Stennett, Al Oliver, and Bobby Clemente. Harrison with 3 hits. Clemente with 3. The Clemente is taking bigger advantage of it. They lead 2-0. Tomorrow, Steve Blass will go for the Pirates for the outstanding pitcher of the World Series against Gary Gentry. The organ music of Gene Jarvis, I guess, isn't it? Still? Can't wait to hear the organ music. There's tonight on Tuesday, April the 18th, and we open against the Cubs. Game time 1:35. Hope you'll be on hand to welcome the world champion player. Rennie Stennett struck out looking in the first inning. Here's Seaver's pitch. Curve outside, ball one. At first base, catching to the Bucks, and Osiak at third base. Ball fouled out of play, first base side. Count on Rennie Stennett is 1 ball and 1 strike. Rennie just 21 years of age, and quite a decision this spring as to who the Pirates would carry as the next infielder. Dave Cash in the service. Rennie Stennett getting the start here this afternoon. Fastball taken by Rennie, and the count is 1 ball, 2 strikes. Rocky and Bruce Keeson on the disabled list. They'll be coming off next week, so some decisions will have to be made there. A 1-2 pitch by Seaver. Curveball looped into right field at the base hit. Stop coming on. Can't get through it. Tracks the ball. And Stennett lines a single into right field. Very patented catch of Rusty Staub resembles somewhat the play that Clemente makes when he comes in sliding to grab the ball. Tried to make the shoestring, but just trapped it. Well, that's the 4th hit given up by Seaver in the first time of the ball game. We get the lead off batter on. Hal Oliver, who singled his first time up into left field as a batter. Curveball way outside, but evidently just grabbed the corner. Strike one. Boy, that ball looked like it hung way out there, but our angle a little bit off center there, so we won't argue with Kenny Burkhardt. The 0-1 pitch, fouled by Oliver right out of off the bare hand of the catcher, Jerry Grote. He could have hurt on a day like this with the temperatures in the mid or low 40s. Grody was working out in Texas. He says the temperature down there was in the 90s. He cut it in half by coming up here. It's 45. Fastball blown right through there. Seaver threw his best fastball of the afternoon. He just blew it past Al Oliver. That's his 5th strikeout. Last year got off to a slow start offensively. We did not do much hitting in the first month of the season. Willie Stargell was about the lone guy that did it. Boy, did he spin it. But overall, we finished just 1 point behind the Cardinals, who led the National League in hitting. Bobby Clemente struck out swinging his first time up. Clemente hit .341 last year. But what a World Series. Pitch outside by Seaver. 1 ball and no strikes. Seaver generally works hitters, right-handers, outside. Keeps the ball away from him. The 1-0 pitch, right out there again. Foul ball to right field. That's too deep. Staub calling for it. Set it halfway. And the wind dipping it toward the line. Staub makes a staggering catch of it. 2 down. Rennie Stennett at first base. 2 down. The score is 2-0. The Mets leading. They scored in the second, in case you're just tuning us in. The batter is Willie Stargell. Tried to check his swing and struck out on a curveball to end the first inning. Shift on. Harrelson just behind the bag at second. Fregosi at third in the hole at shortstop. Willie takes a very bad pitch inside strike one. That's the same one he tried to save before. Willie wearing some kind of flashy shoes. The stripes on the shoes are very iridescent yellow, like a day-glow paint or something. Fastball outside, 1 ball and 1 strike. Baseball here is becoming more flashy by the years. Fastball again blown in there, and Stargell swings and misses. The count is 1 and 2. Seaver now starting to loosen up a bit. He has thrown 2 very fine fastballs. Check out Oliver and just blazed one past Stargell. Comes back again, fly ball, that's too deep. Agee started back, will come on for it. Stargell didn't get all of it, and that retired the try. No runs on a hit, no errors, and 1 left. We go to the bottom of the third, and the Mets lead 2-0.
The New York Mets announced Saturday that uniform number 14, worn by the late manager Gil Hodges, will be retired. Hodges died of a heart attack on Easter Sunday in West Palm Beach, Florida. His number is the second to be retired by the Mets. The other, number 37, belonged to former manager Casey Stengel. The Mets also announced the recall of outfielder Don Hahn from their Tidewater Farm Club in the International League, and that catcher infielder Bill Sudeikis has been placed on the 21-day disabled list. Hahn, basically a defensive specialist, and when you bat .217 and you're in the major leagues, you had better be a defensive specialist. But nonetheless, that's what he hit during the spring, and he was among the last Mets cut from the squad. He fills the slot opened when 3 Mets were dealt to the Montreal Expos for outfielder Rusty Staub. Sudeikis, purchased from Los Angeles during the spring, underwent knee surgery last November and has had problems recuperating. Well, not all of the opening day ceremonies were happy ones. At Cincinnati, quite a ceremony, but a lot of booing went on as the fans apparently indicating their reaction to the player strike.
Well, the Pirates will be in town on the Tuesday afternoon for opening day, but Wednesday night will be World Series ring night for the Pirate players. They will receive their World Series ring from Commissioner Bowie Kuhn on April 19th, Wednesday night. And a reminder that ring day that had been scheduled in conjunction with this will be held instead Friday night, May the 19th. So a month from when the Pirates get theirs, youngsters, 14 years of age and under, can get their World Championship ring. That's for 14 years of age and under attending that game. Receive a souvenir Pirate World Championship ring engraved with a Pirate insignia and the words Pirate World Champ 71 on May the 19th. Leadoff batter is Bud Harrelson. The count is 1 ball, 1 strike on Bud. He struck out in the first inning. Ellis has 2 strikeouts. Seaver has 5, and the Mets lead. About as well as anybody. Jerry Grote does it exceptionally well, too. One down in the Mets' third inning. They lead 2-0, and Ken Boswell, who bounced out to Bobby Robertson with Ellis covering at first in the first inning, is the batter. This fellow, just 26 years of age, hampered with injuries last year, said he's going to have to learn to play with pain. His shoulder bothers him, his right shoulder. Fastball by Dock is right on the corner. The fastball moved away. Strike 1. Hernandez at shortstop is inched over towards second base. He's about 10, 15 feet from the bag. Very odd defense against Boswell, who can't hit the ball to left field. Pulled off the right side. Stennett stays with it, and he throws him out at first base. 2 up, 2 down on the Mets' third inning. They lead 2-0, and he'll bring up Tommie Agee. Looked at the third strike to end the first inning. Jones and Fregosi are going to put some pressure on the pitching staff in the National League, but they didn't put on last year. Tommie usually led off, but this year he's batting third just in front of Rusty Staub. Ellis with a short windup. Here's the pitch. Fouled off the shoulder of catcher Manny Sanguillen. Strike 1. Showing throughout the crowd here, but not any kind of a heavy rain at all. It must be a slight mist. The 0-1 delivery. Down low, ball 1. 1 ball and 1 strike on Agee. Quite a change from yesterday's weather. Well, it was in the 70s, I guess, yesterday in Pittsburgh, and today a very cold and windy, overcast 45 degrees or lower here at Shea Stadium. A 1-1 pitch. Bounced off the leg of Ellis behind second. Dive, but he can't make the play. He stopped it, but he had no play at first. That ball bounced off the leg of Dock Ellis, but still got through up the middle. That was a big hit for Agee, and that'll bring up Rusty Staub. The cheers for Staub were loud and long when he was introduced prior to game time. And he'll be a very popular ball player in this town. And the guy down the third base side with all those sides that became so familiar in '69, the miracle year for the Mets, has his already. It's called Trusty Rusty. Agee will run. He's at first base. Staub takes a fastball off the inside corner. Ellis thought he had it. He stares in it. Kenny Burkhardt. Ellis' fastball run away from left-handed batters, and it will back up on the inside corner. You got to stay with it if you're an umpire. And Ellis hollering into Burkhardt to tell him to do that. The 1-0 pitch. Fastball inside again, and he backs him off the plate. The count is 2-0. Pirates defensively shifting the same way on Staub as they did on Boswell, with Hernandez pulled over to the bag at second. Hebner straight away at third. Big gap between third and short, and also a gap in left center field. 2 down 2-0 to Mets lead. Agee's going on the pitch. It's down low. The throw by Sanguillen to second base, and he is not there in time. Wow, he was right on the money with it. But Andy Olson says no. That throw is right on the bag. Well, we got our first argument of 1972. Bill Burton is out there, and he wants to question this call. And I can't say I blame him. Well, Sanguillen came out of there throwing right away and laid it right on the money. Hernandez did not even have to move his glove. If he didn't tag him, he just shied away from it. Burton is really letting Andy Olson know about it. Funny how I can umpire from this far out. Hernandez doesn't say too much, but Jackie that time got right on top of Andy Olson. That is Andy Olson, isn't it? Now the first stolen base of the season. Agee gets it, giving an indication that his knee is sound and he's due some running. Oh, big run at second base now. The Cavs 3-0. They're going to intentionally walk Staub, and they'll take their chances with Cleon Jones. Jones singled after Staub singled in the second inning to put runners at first and second. That's when the Mets did their scoring. Fregosi double to right center, sending Jones to third and scoring Staub, and then Kranepool hit a sacrifice fly that gives the Mets the lead they have now 2-0. But they're trying to get more. Miller's trying to get this final out here in the third. Agee at second has good speed. Staub at first, not so fast. Jones, a right-handed batter. Ellis checking Agee at second. And the pitch. Curve bends in beautifully. Back one. Baseball season 1972. Not the same without guys like my trainer, Round and Gil Hodges, and a very close friend of a lot of people in Pittsburgh, and mine too, Ed King. He passed away last fall. Ellis started to go to second. This Agee was not much of a lead, in fact, and Doc wisely does not go. Hernandez now wants to talk things over with Doc. He is playing Jones up the middle where he got his base hit in the second inning. So he's very close to Agee. He's not going to get too much of a lead, and I think he's telling Doc that not much chance of him doing too much running there because I'm playing behind him, so don't worry about him. Pirates have let a big gap between third and short on just about every hitter. Look to second. Here's the pitch to Jones. Curve right in there, taking strike two. Gave up on that pitch, backed off, and it just caught the inside corner. I do not believe Ellis wanted to throw that ball that far inside. He made the bad pitch, but got away with it. 0-2 to count on Cleon Jones. Agee second, Staub at first. Doc has the sign from the belt, throws the curve way outside, the bat all the way down the third base side, and that's a strikeout. No runs on one hit, no errors, and they strand a couple. Well, we've completed three, and the Mets lead 2-0.
Bill Verdon came out there to discuss that play at second base on a well-thrown ball, apparently. And before the start of the game, Bob Prince of the Pirates Network asked Bill Verdon just about situations like that.
Well, now I've known you, of course, for a long time, Bill, and I know that you have a pretty fiery temper, and you're able to keep it pretty much under control. Somebody once made book that you might get tossed out of about 5 games throughout the season. Your chances of being thrown out of the game, I think, are much slimmer now as a manager than they would have been last year as a coach.
I think so. I think I'm not really too bad about getting carried away. I get upset occasionally, and I get irritated when something doesn't go our way, but I don't think you can help anybody or do any good by sitting in the clubhouse. I think you got to have control enough to be able to stay in the game anyway.
Okay, Bill Verdon talking with Bob Prince of the Pirates Network, and as you heard Nellie King describe, Bill Verdon was out there in a big hurry on that apparent perfect throw to second base, but Tommie Agee of the Mets had that stolen base, and he's in there. But as it turned out, it didn't hurt the Pirates at all. Bill Verdon, the manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and of course, it's enough of a situation to come into the season 13 days late, but of course, it even puts more pressure on Bill Verdon because he takes over for Danny Murtaugh. Not only taking over for Danny Murtaugh, he is also taking over the defending world champion, and that, needless to say, puts a lot of pressure on.
All right, we go now into the 4th inning, and the Bucks present up there Richie Hebner wearing number 3, which will be his new number. Foul ball off first base from Tom Seaver. Hebner will surrender and has surrendered his number 20, which was the number worn by the late Pie Trainer, and that will be Retired and given to the widow of High Trainer Eve at an appropriate ceremony. A swing and a miss, strike two. I might have read the wrong bridge having just come over from television.
Well, right now, Bob Prince is correcting a commercial cue that he missed. That's okay. It's opening day, Bob. And we will, of course, delete that from our broadcast. Okay, let's get back now to New York.
Ball inside, and it's 2 balls, 2 strikes. We have a new format right now on some things that might take a little getting used to, but we'll stick with us now. Right now, the score 2-0 Mets. 2-2 pitch. Jammed him with the ball, hit down to first base. Kranepool has it, flips the Seaver, and there's 1 out. That'll bring up Manny Sanguillen, who singled up the middle in the second inning. Bucks are in with no runs on 4 base hits. The Mets are in with 2 runs on 4. Bobby Moose continuing to loosen down the left field line, but he's only loosening because he's scheduled to go Tuesday afternoon in our opener against Chicago. Fans holding tickets for the April 6th game for the opening day at that time scheduled will be honored for those tickets on the 18th when we play Chicago. There's still some reserve seats available, and our ticket windows are open until 6 tonight and tomorrow. Well, the G.C. Murphy store from 10 to 6. If you're holding tickets on the 18th, you might exchange them, or if not for that date, for another day or game at night. 1 ball and no strikes to Manny Sanguillen. Tommy Seaver's fastball lifted foul to the right, and it's out of play. So the count is holding now at 1 ball and 1 strike. Outfield swung to the right on Manny Sanguillen, who singled with 1 out back in the second, and now with 1 out here in the fourth. Trailing no runs to 2. Seaver's curveball, a swing and a miss by Sanguillen, way outside on it, 1 and 2. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Foul back. And that one almost got the gunner. Was that close? A ball and 2 strikes to Manny Sanguillen. 1-2 pitch, just outside for a ball, 2 and 2. A brutally cold day here in New York, and the type of day that Tom Seaver's drawn against us. Last time or so, several years, and he whips us every time. Foul ball. Punched out 25 strikeouts in 2 games against us last year. We haven't beaten him since 1968. He's 9-3 lifetime against us. Bob Fields beat him 2 of the 3 times he's lost. Here's the 2-2 pitch. Foul back. Sanguillen hanging tough on the fastball. The Mets scored a pair in the second inning. The Dodgers and the Reds are scoreless, or rather are tied up 1-1 at the end of 4. The Dodgers now batting. And the Cubs lead the Phillies 1-0 in the 4th inning. Ball low from Seaver, 3 balls and 2 strikes. Seaver will throw 80 pitches or 6 innings, whichever comes first. And then he'll bail him out. 3-2 delivery to Manny Sanguillen, and there's a high fly to right field. Coming over Rusty Staub and Tommie Agee. Staub is getting under. He'll have it, and there are 2 away in the Pirates' 4th inning. Now, Bobby Robertson, a strikeout victim in the second inning, is standing in. The last time we faced Seaver, Robertson did, in the second inning, they had played the outfield straight away. Good curveball to the inside corner. And the left fielder, Jones, was getting him about 70 feet of the left field line, and he's doing it again. Now the 0-1 delivery. A curveball hammered foul off third past Fregosi. So we have a count now of no balls and 2 strikes. With 2 down, nobody aboard in the 4th, and the Mets on top 2-0. Two-strike pitch. Fastball. Strike 3 is called, and Robertson crushed Robertson to call a little bit, but Burkhardt signaled that there was a foul tip, and that's the 6th strikeout. So, we go now to the bottom of the 4th inning, and the score, New York 2 and the Pirates nothing.
Well, of course, many people are interested just what the reaction of the fans has been on this opening day of a strike-delayed 1972 season. At Cincinnati, Jim Merritt, the player representative of the Reds, was greeted with a chorus of boos when he was introduced before a crowd of about 20,000 at Riverfront Stadium. Now, Merritt, of course, being the player representative of Cincinnati, was involved in the 13-day baseball strike negotiations between the club owners and the Players Association. He reacted with a smile as the fans voiced their disapproval. Now, the approximate attendance was far below the expected crowd. Tickets for the original opening game on April 5th between the Reds and the Astros were good for Saturday's game, but the official opener was a complete sellout of over 50,000 fans. So you can see that 30,000 missed out on this game here, deciding not to show up. Now, I don't know what the weather is in Cincinnati, but if it's cold, obviously, that will have something to do with it. Senator Robert Taft of Ohio threw out the first ball, and not Baseball Commissioner Bowie Kuhn, who showed up at Shea Stadium.
Now, third baseman Jim Fregosi stands in. He doubled on a pitch right out over the plate. Fastball right out over. No way. The Doc wanted to throw that pitch, and he ripped it to right, and that drove in a big run, and then later Kranepool drove in the next one, this time in for a strike. We hope for station identification, and will be forthcoming in a moment. The 0-1 delivery is a let-up, and it's inside ball 1, 1-1. Straight away in the outfield to Jim Fregosi. There's a high fly out into right field. Bobby Clemente coming up for it. The wind drifting it away from him a little bit. He stays with it, and there's one away. And we now pause 10 seconds for station identification on the Pirate Baseball Network.
This is SCN Radio, the voice of information in the Canal Zone, at 790 and 1420.
Now Ed Kranepool, who drove in a run with a sacrifice fly to left field back in the second inning. Hammering a pitch off first base foul. Dock Ellis jammed him with a good moving fastball. Jerry Grote, the on-deck batter. Mets leading 2-0, one down here in the 4th inning. Anything but a sellout crowd on hand here today. Kept down for numerous reasons, one of which, of course, is bad weather. I'm just guessing around 25,000 here. In for a strike. At the end of 3 innings, the Cubs lead the Phillies 1-0. And at the end of 4, the Dodgers and the Reds are tied 1-1. One game postponed in the American League already, New York at Baltimore. Kranepool strikes out swinging, and Dock Ellis has number 4. Ferguson Jenkins pitching for Chicago. Who else? Along with his orchestra. And the Philadelphia Phillies are back with Steve Carlton, the left-hander acquired from the Cardinals. Now with 2 down, the batter Jerry Grote fouled out to third baseman Hebner back in the second inning. Strike swinging on him, a off-speed pitch. President Danny Galbraith, wife Liz here attending the game. Mr. John Galbraith here, along with General Manager Joe L. Brown. Now the no-ball, 1 strike pitch. Here's a beautiful fastball right there, popping through at the thighs. And a count of 0-2. Kansas City at Chicago at Kansas City into 3 innings, no score in that game. Scores are now beginning to slowly trickle in. They've had Western Union trouble here. That is, Ticker's been out. 0-2 pitch. Missed outside with his fastball, 1-2. The Mets could ill afford to lose Jerry Grote. He's a fine catcher. He last year batted at .270. Now the 1-ball, 2-strike pitch. And he fouls it away. The Dodgers and the Cincinnati game. Dodgers are pitching Sutton. And the Reds have countered with Jack Billingham, a former Dodger. 1-2 pitch. Foul back. But we saw Billingham 2 strikes. Tom Seaver, the on-deck batter. 2 down to Jerry Grote. And the 1-2 delivery, fastball, it ran in on him. He tried to duck away. It fouled off his bat handle. Count holding 1-2. A 1-ball, 2-strike count. To right-hand batting Jerry Grote, whom the Pirates play most honestly straight away. The 1-2 pitch, another foul, flicked out a play to the right. Hit him up on the left shoulder. You're just tuning into our broadcast. Back in the second inning, Staub singled to left. Jones singled up the middle. Staub stopping at second. Fregosi double to right, scoring Staub, sending Jones to third, and Kranepool's fly ball to left brought him in. There's a fly ball hit rather deep into right field. Bobby Clemente circling over to the right, getting under. There's that basket catch, and the side retires. So it's 3 up and 3 down. At the end of 4 innings, the Mets lead our Pirates by the score of 2-0.
Well, we told you about the reaction of the crowd in Cincinnati to Jim Merritt, the player representative for the Reds. However, Cincinnati manager Sparky Anderson explains why the strike will not have an adverse effect on Major League Baseball.
Just from seeing my club and the mental attitude which they've had, I think 1972, out of all of this, will bring better baseball. And when I say this, a lot of people say, well, then you mean they weren't giving us the best baseball before. Well, I don't mean that. I mean that each person inside of them seemed to have a little something they can reach back to. And they don't always do this unless it's under an adverse condition. And I think since this thing has went on, the players in both of the leagues and all the clubs want to prove one thing to the fans. This was not meant against the fans or anything like that. And I think they'll reach back for a little something which each human being has in emergency. And I think this will draw out the little thing that they need, which will make baseball in 72, I think, greater than it's ever been as far as the playing end.
Okay, that was Cincinnati manager Sparky Anderson explaining why he figures the strike will not have an adverse effect on Major League Baseball. The statement, of course, was made before the Cincinnati Reds were introduced to a crowd of about 20,000 at Riverfront Stadium on Saturday before the opening game for Cincinnati between the Reds and the Los Angeles Dodgers. And Jim Merritt, the player representative, who represented the Reds in the negotiations for the players' strike, was greeted with a large number of boos when he was introduced. So it'll probably take a while before the fans probably finally get back in the groove of seeing Major League Baseball. But right now, they're a little unhappy.
Here's Jackie Hernandez standing in. He's single back in the second. Tom Seaver on the mound. Tried to bunt his way on, fouled it back. One strike. Hernandez leads it off here in the fifth. Grounds it down to the shortstop, Harrelson. He comes up flawlessly, throws to Kranepool, and there's one away. That'll bring up Dock Ellis, who went out on a comebacker to the mound. Seaver to Kranepool. Mets broadcasters, Lindsey Nelson, Bob Murphy, and Ralph Kenner. We're joined over here on our right by Jim Simpson and Sandy Koufax. Game getting national, all kinds of coverage here today. Well, Seaver on top here, 2-0. They're posted to battery. Stoneman of Montreal draws Bob Gibson in the game at St. Louis. Sutton of the Dodgers and Billingham of the Reds against each other. There's the follow off the glove of Seaver. Hit slowly towards shortstop. Throw to first. They don't get Dock Ellis. A fine play. Play went 1 to 6 to 3, but a base hit for Dock Ellis. Being up there left-handed was an advantage. Bounced it off the glove of Seaver up high. And that made Harrelson change his stride to come around to get the ball. And he snapped his throw with a bare hand pickup and flipper and didn't get Dock Ellis. That'll bring up Rennie Stennett, who struck out in the first inning and singled to right in the third. That's the fifth hit now, submitted by Seaver, but the Mets lead 2-0. Thing to do is to keep him close and get Seaver out of there and jump on whomever they bring in. said, 80 pitches or 6 innings, whichever comes first. Right now, it looks like the 6 innings will come ahead of the 80 pitches. Because this guy is always around the plate. So look to first the pitch, and there's the slow chopper. Hit back to Seaver. He'll go to second. He'll get Harrelson, and he'll double play him. Seaver to Harrelson. On to first, and a very fine slide that time by Dock Ellis, trying to break up the double play to no avail. So it's no runs, no one hit, no errors, and nobody left. And we go to the bottom of the 5th, and the Mets lead our Pirates by the score of 2-0.
Well, although this is the opening of the 1972 Major League Baseball season, there are other sports going on, notably professional basketball. And in the American Basketball Association playoff game, this is the opening game of the Western Division playoffs in the ABA. The defending ABA champion Utah Stars are leading the Indiana Pacers 82-81 at the end of the third period. In case you missed it, the Los Angeles Lakers beat the Milwaukee Bucks 108-105 Friday to take a 2-1 lead in their NBA Western Conference playoff series. Gail Goodrich sank 2 baskets and 2 free throws in the final minute and a half as the Lakers took command after the teams had traded the lead 28 times. The New York Nets hope to regain their composure Saturday when they go against the Virginia Squires in the second game of their best-of-7 ABA Eastern Division Finals. The Nets were beaten 138-91 in Thursday night's opener in Norfolk, Virginia. Getting back to that NBA situation, Game 4 of the Milwaukee-Los Angeles series will be played on Sunday, and the New York Knicks-Boston Celtics series will also resume on Sunday, with the Knicks leading that series 1-0. On the scoreboard, Milwaukee is leading Cleveland 3-1 after 5 innings of play. Parsons pitching against Gaylord Perry. Boston and Detroit are tied at 2 each after 3. Patton versus Lolich. Eddie Brinkman hit a home run for Detroit with 1 on in the second inning. The New York-Baltimore game postponed because of wet grounds. Chicago and Kansas City scoreless after 4. Wood versus Drago. In night games, Minnesota against Oakland. And Texas will be playing at California. In that Minnesota game, Bert Blyleven, 16-15 last year, pitching for the Twins. Kenny Holtzman, 9-15 for Oakland. And Texas at California, Dick Bosman, 12-16 last year, will go for Texas. And Andy Messersmith, 20-13, will pitch for California. In the National League, Montreal at St. Louis, and the Expos are leading that ball game by the score of 2-0 after 2.5 innings of play. Stoneman versus Gibson. Mike Jorgensen hit a home run for Montreal with 1 on in the first inning, his first of the season. Greg Luzinski also hit 1 for Philadelphia in the Philadelphia-Chicago game, and right now that ball game is tied at 1-1 after 5.5 innings of play. Luzinski hit his solo shot in the 4th inning for the Phillies. Carlson is pitching against Jenkins. Los Angeles and Cincinnati are tied 1-1 after 4 innings of play. Sutton pitching for Los Angeles against Jack Billingham of Cincinnati. Dennis Menke accounted for Cincinnati's only run with his first home run of the season in the second inning. A couple of night games, San Francisco at Houston, and Atlanta plays at San Diego.
Foul back by Seaver. Slide to center in the second inning. Fouls off a slow curve from Dock Ellis. Strike 2. Of course, with a baseball player strike and the season now shortened as a result of that, now an additional advantage in the National League as well as the American League are those teams that will break out of this time of the year on the West Coast, specifically Atlanta and San Diego and San Francisco and Houston, where they know they'll have good weather, no rain problems, nothing. They'll stay out there a while, give them a little chance to get their team in better shape. Burton is talking, along with Barra and all. They're going to work their players out considerably, extra workouts. After games, 1-2 pitch, and Seaver swings on one he couldn't hit with a bed flat. Broke it way outside. Strikeout number 5. Here's Bud Harrelson. He struck out and went out on a little roller out in front of the plate. The rain continuing to fall here on this bitterly cold day. Thank goodness the wind is not too much of a factor. Harrelson is jammed with a pitch, fouls it off his right foot. Picked up by the first base coach, Robinson. No balls, 1 strike. whether Dock Ellis in the windup delivers a change. It's in there for a strike call. Bud didn't like that call particularly. I think he felt the pitch was too far up. 0-2 to count. Now Dock on the 0-2 pitch. Gets him to ground foul down first base past Lee Wire and Bobby Robertson. Interesting to see what the crowd is, but I'm guessing in the neighborhood of around 23 to 25,000. And in better conditions, this could be a jammed-up ballpark. Not so today. 1 out in the fifth, and the Mets lead 2-0. The batter is Harrelson. The 0-2 pitch to him is a fastball sinking underneath, 1-2. One ball, 2 strikes. Dock reading the sign now from Manny Sanguillen as Boswell, the on-deck batter. There's a ball flicked down the left line, slicing out of here foul. 341 down both lines, and it falls out gradually. 358, 371, 396, and 410. With this heavy air today, it's pretty hard to belt one very far. They did pop one, and Fregosi took a fastball out over the plate off Dock Ellis and rammed it to right for a double. Another curve that's fouled away. Clemente shallow on Fregosi, had no play on the ball at all. It went all the way out to the 358 mark. That set up the first run, driving in Staub, who had singled, and sending Jones, who had singled, to third. And Kranepool fly to left, brought in Jones, and that's it. The 1-2 pitch from Dock Ellis, and it's a ripper to right for the base hit. Ran him up a hanging curveball, and he singled to right field, and that's the fifth hit of the ball game for the Mets. Now here's Kenny Boswell with 1 down, 1 on. Mets lead 2-0. Boswell went out first base to pitcher covering and grounded out to second. Left-hand batting Kenny Boswell, the Mets second baseman. The acquisition of Fregosi and Staub has certainly made the New York Mets ball club some kind of tough. Ball way inside, ball 1. Ellis looking around the outfield now. The flag here at half-mast in memory of the late Gil Hodges. Robertson holding to the runner, Bud Harrelson. Looked at first, the pitch is a hammering foul off first base. And the count 1 ball, 1 strike. Bucks, if they play tomorrow, if no rain in the sky, we'll go with Steve Blass. This will, of course, enable us then to get home tomorrow night on schedule. If it should be rained out, the next day, Monday, belongs to New York. Whether they'll keep us here to play would remain to be seen. With the situation the way it is, one might suppose that's exactly what they do, although we do have 2 more trips here. They're running, and the ball's hit foul out of play by Boswell. Boy, Ed Harrelson had a break on Ellis. He was way up the line. Pitch, it is hit toward right. Bobby Clemente coming up fast, falls to the ground and grabs it in a sensational Bobby Clemente catch. He came in on a sinking liner, dived under the ball, slid along and caught it. And it's 2 down to Tommie Agee. And the runner is back. 2-0 New York with 2 down, a runner at first, Harrelson in the bottom of the 5th inning. The Dock Ellis checking now, coming to Agee. Sends a curve to the outside corner for a call strike. Milwaukee breaks on top of Cleveland 1-0 at the end of 3 innings. At the end of 5, the Dodgers and the Reds remain tied 1-1. Sutton and Billingham in that one. At the end of 3, the Jenkins of the Cubs leads the Phillies 1-0 with Carlson pitching for the Phillies. They're running again on a pitch out. The throw is too high. And it's a stolen base for Harrelson. They had him if the throw is down, but it's too high. And Harrelson has the second stolen base of the game, the first having gone to Agee. 1 ball, 1 strike. We pitched out. Just in case if we didn't get the ball down there. Low enough where Stennett, who was covering, could handle it. So Agee, a ball and a strike. Mets lead 2-0. We're in the 5th. There's a ball flipped out toward right. Here comes Bobby Clemente running like the wind off to the left. He's got it. And the side is retired. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, and 1 left. And the end of 5 innings of play, the Mets lead our Pirates by the score of 2-0.
The Toledo Mud Hens opened the international baseball season Friday night in Richmond by beating the Richmond Braves 5-1. In other International League action Friday, the Tidewater Tides beat the Louisville Colonels 4-2. The Syracuse Chiefs beat the Charleston Charlies 8-6. And the Peninsula Whips beat the pennant-defending Rochester Red Wings 3-1. You know, I don't care what anybody says. There's a lot of romance, I guess, if you can put it that way, in some of the nicknames of minor league teams. Like we just pointed out a couple of the better-known names, or the interesting ones at any rate. The Charleston Charlies and the Peninsula Whips. And, of course, the Toledo Mud Hens. One of the results of this Major League Baseball player strike is that some clubs will play as few as 153 games and some others as many as 156. Some teams lost games with strong opponents and some with weak opponents. And that fact is bound to cause controversy as the season progresses. And you better believe that if it's a tight race near the end of September, you're going to hear plenty of noise about that.
Tom Seaver is now going to work his last inning. Bud Mcgraw, left-hander, is loosening up. And he'll be coming on to face the Pirates in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. Seaver will go to Oliver, Clemente, and Stargell here in the 6th inning. The lights have been on here at Shea Stadium since the start of the game. Neither side team took batting practice. They did get a little infield in. That's about all. It rained very hard most of the night and early part of the day. The outfield's a mess. But so far, nobody's been slipping around too much. They resided this field, and it's pretty slippery. Here's Oliver, single to left and struck out. Left-hand batting Al Oliver as we play in the 6th inning. The Mets on top 2-0. Both sides are in with 5 hits. Both sides have played thus far errorless baseball. Now Seaver works, and Oliver hits a rammer off the right side. Over goes Boswell. Slips it on to Kranepool, and there's 1 away. That'll bring up Bobby Clemente, who struck out and flied to right. Willie Stargell, who hit the first home run ever struck here in league play when we opened Shea Stadium several years ago. The inclement weather has driven the Galbraith and Joe Brown and company out of there, and they're up somewhere where it's a little warmer. There's a ball hit sharply off the left side. Harrelson on a short hop, fine play, throws him out, and there are 2 away on 2 pitches. Seaver has disposed of the first 2 batters. Now Willie Stargell struck out and fly to center. So Mets lead 2-0. Fog beginning to come in, the rain continuing to fall. Seaver in what apparently will be his last inning of work. 2 down, nobody on, leading 2-0 as Tug Mcgraw, the left-hander, loosens in the right field bullpen. Outfield around to the right, infield shift is on. Stargell takes a fastball from Seaver upstairs, ball 1. Harrelson is almost directly behind second. Way over to the right is Boswell. Kranepool deep at first. Fastball moved inside to Stargell, takes it in there, 2-0. 2 balls, no strikes, and the 2-0 pitch. Ball outside, 3-0. That's the deepest in the ball. No strike count. Seaver's gone on any batter today. Seaver had arm troubles this spring, and they were very apprehensive about it. be throwing quite loosely now. Field pitch. In there for a strike, and it's 3-1. Mets lead by the score of 2-0 here in the 6th inning. 2 down and none on. And Stargell hits a high fly up along the first base side. Kranepool jogging around under there is there for the out. That will retire the side. 3 up and 3 down, and we go now to the bottom of the 6th inning, and New York leads 2-0.
Well, we've heard about the players, we've heard about the managers. What about the umpires in this Major League Baseball strike? For an answer, here's Jim Racer of KNX Radio.
48 men in blue were also affected by the walkout, but only from the standpoint of not knowing when they'd be called back for work. Doug Harvey, a National League veteran, told us the difference between the umpires and players' status during the strike.
Jim, they had us scared to death, truthfully, because there was nothing to the effect that we had to get paid. And, in other words, we're paid for the season. And if the season didn't get started, we didn't have to get paid. However, the owners deemed it only right in as much as it was not our doing and in as much as we were part of the league, rather than of... like each player belongs to a team, we belong to the league itself. And the owners, therefore, deemed it only right that we should get paid.
And for Harvey and other National League umps who were assigned to the spring training circuit in Arizona, it was extra welcome, since they worked only half their normal number of preseason games for which they're paid per contest, in order for the league to look over some promising minor league umps.
Okay, that's the story from the umpire's viewpoint.
Well, Rusty Staub, Cleon Jones, and Jim Fregosi will be the net batters in the 6th inning. Dock Ellis surrendered a base hit to Staub back in the 2nd, just to refresh your memory, and then Jones singled Staub to 2nd. Fregosi doubled to right, scoring Staub, sending Jones to 3rd, and Kranepool's fly ball to left field turned into a sacrifice, plating Jones, and thus the Mets lead 2-0. Here is Rusty Staub stepping in with a single and an intentional walk and a run scored. The Dodgers are on top of the Reds, 2-1 as the Reds bat in the bottom of the 6th. That's Sutton for the Dodgers, Dillingham for the Reds. Montreal has jumped in front of Gibson, 2-0. Staub a fly ball center field deep. Al Oliver running hard. The ball knuckleballs on him, and he's under for the out on a fine play by Al Oliver deep in left center field. As the ball knuckleballed on him when it got out there. Montreal Stoneman on top of Bob Gibson of the Cardinals, 2-0 at the end of 3. Boston at Detroit, end of 3 innings. It is 2-2. Mickey Lolich in that one for Detroit. And Boston is pitching Ray Coe. Check that Negro's pitching for... wait a minute. Detroit's Lolich, that was right. And Boston pitching Patton, Marty Patton. Cleon Jones, no balls and a strike. Now the 0-1 delivery, and it's hit sharply down to short, and Hernandez has the ball, throws it across just in case there was an argument that he had trapped the ball. It was very close to that. I will call it a trap ball, or not a trap ball, but an out. Tug Mcgraw continuing to loosen, and undoubtedly will be the oncoming pitcher for the New York Mets. Now Eddie Yost is down talking to Jim Fregosi. Fregosi doubled in the 2nd to drive in a run. And sent a fly ball to right. Nobody loosening in the Pirate bullpen as yet. Bergman said he was thinking 7 for Ellis if he could get it out of him. And he's pitched rather strongly except for that one bad outing in the 2nd inning. He sends a good slider through there for a strike. 2 down here in the bottom half of the 6th inning. New York 2 and the Pirates nothing. Strongly except for that one bad outing in the 2nd inning. He sends a good slider through there for a strike. 2 down here in the bottom half of the 6th inning. New York 2 and the Pirates nothing. Philadelphia now batting in the 7th inning. It tied up Ferguson Jenkins and his orchestra 1-1. There's a change into the dirt by Dock Ellis. The ball 1 strike 1 count. Reds are batting in their 6th inning where the Dodgers lead 2-1. Milwaukee and Cleveland are tied 1-1 at the end of 3. Chicago at Kansas City, no score at the end of 3.5. New York, Baltimore rained out. There's a breaking ball down low to the right-hand batting Jim Fregosi, and a count of 2 balls and a strike. Ed Kranepool on deck should Fregosi keep the Mets alive here in the 6th. Now the 2-1 delivery is a breaking ball into the dirt, and it's ball 3. 3-1. The first intentionally to stop. And we'll pause right here 10 seconds for station identification on the Pirate Baseball Network.
Serving you from Fort Clayton and Fort Davis, this is SCN Radio at 790 and 1420.
Taking a strike. Runner at first base held by Bobby Robertson. That's Jim Fregosi. Mcgraw continuing to loosen in the right field bullpen. Now the look in the 0-1 delivery sails outside for a ball and a count of 1-1. New York 2 runs on 5 hits. The Pirates no runs on 5 hits. Half of the 6th inning. Tomorrow it'll be Blast and Gentry at a 2 o'clock ball game. Now the look to first, the pitch. There's a ball hit very deep to right field, hooking, and it is a home run. Kranepool, a line drive home run. That ball 341 feet right down the line, a line drive, and it's now 4-0, and he really tattooed it. Kranepool gets his first home run of the year, and the Mets lead 4-0. Here's Jerry Grote. Curveball in for a strike. The mistake that Ellis made with 2 out was walking a 230 hitter Fregosi on 4 pitches. Ball out towards center field. And waiting for it is Al Oliver. This will do it, but the horse is out in the pasture. 2 runs on 1 hit, no errors, and nobody left. At the end of 6, the Mets lead by the score of 4-0.
Let's take a look at the scoreboard. Milwaukee and Cleveland after 6.5 innings of play. It's Milwaukee 4-1 over Cleveland. Parsons and Sanders for Milwaukee. Gaylord Perry continues to pitch for Cleveland. Dave May hit a home run for Milwaukee with none on in the 7th inning, his first of the season. Boston and Detroit are battling in a 2-2 tie after 5 innings of play. Patton pitching for Boston, Lolich for Detroit. Ed Brinkman hit a home run for the Tigers with 1 on in the 2nd inning. New York and Baltimore postponed because of wet grounds. Chicago and Kansas City scoreless after 4. Wood is pitching against Drigo. Later on, Minnesota will be playing at Oakland. Bert Blyleven, 16 and 15, will pitch against Ken Holtzman, 9 and 15 last season. And Texas will be at California on the West Coast. Dick Bosman, 12 and 16 for Texas. Andy Messersmith, who finished for California at 20 and 13 last season, will be on the mound for the Angels. In the National League, Montreal and St. Louis have finished 5.5 innings of play. Stoneman pitching against Gibson. Mike Jorgensen hit a home run for Montreal, his first of the year, with 1 on in the 1st inning. Philadelphia and Chicago have finished 7 innings of play. The Phillies lead the Cubs 2-1. Greg Luzinski hit a home run for Philadelphia with none on in the 4th inning. Carlton pitching for Philadelphia. Jenkins started for Chicago, but now Hands is pitching. Los Angeles and Cincinnati 1-1 after 5.
Tom Seaver is departing the ball game after 6 innings of very strong pitching. No runs and 5 hits, struck out 6, and he didn't walk anybody. Mr. Seaver, I guess, showing signs that the arm problems he had early in March are no longer there. Continues his mastery over the Pirates. He has not been able to do anything with that guy. retired, surprisingly. But last year, had an earned run average of 1.70. He won 11, and he lost 4. He has a very fine screwball, a good fastball, and a sharp curve, too. Along with Danny Priscilla, they made the Mets bullpen one of the strongest in the National League last year. Priscilla, this year, is experiencing arm problems. They're not doing any pitching at all down in Florida, and has not thrown the ball too well up here either, they said during the workout. Mcgraw has been a nemesis. Stargell has been a nemesis of Ted Mcgraw, so he should well off. Left-hander should hit Mcgraw better than right-hander. They said screwball is his big outfit. Hebner's the leadoff batter. He's a left-hander. The Mets lead 4-0. Fouled out of play. Left field side, strike one. Very disappointing opening day crowd of 15,893 faces. Hitless in 2 times at bat. Both times has gone out to the first baseman, Ed Kranepool. Mcgraw started a pitch, lost his footing, and did not make the delivery. He came forward, but did not throw the ball. With a runner on base, of course, that's a box, but there's nobody on, so it's just no pitch. Chases a high fastball. He doesn't get it. The count is 0-2. Richie goes down swinging. Mcgraw strikes out the first batter he faces. Curveball. That'll bring up Manny Sanguillen, who's had a hit in 2 times before. Seaver, the pitcher of record, and Mcgraw tried to save it. Sanguillen drops in the whole house, and the deep hit goes on to first, and he's got it. A fine play by Bud Harrelson, getting one of the fastest, well, without a doubt, the fastest shots in the National League. Manny Sanguillen at third base. That ball looked like it had base hit written all over it, but Harrelson swing beat, cut it off in the hole, and threw Manny out by a full shift. When they're looking for shortstops, that's the play they want to see, and Harrelson, of course, you don't have to look for it. He's got the credentials for many years, one of the fine defensive players in the National League. 2 up, 2 down in the Pirates 7th. We're down 4-0. Bobby Robertson, first ball hitting, tries Harrelson. And again, he's not trying on it, he kills him out. Bucks are out of order in the 7th inning. And we go to the bottom of the 7th, the Mets lead 4-0.
Well, sports director George Balamasi was going to come in and take half this ball game, but George wandered in a few minutes ago, and he says, Alan, he says, you take it. He said, I'm sick of baseball already. And we're only 7 innings through the opening game of the season, but George has been down a little bit because of the baseball strike, and also a lot of the things that people don't realize in the field. We have to order backup games, of course, because of possible rainouts, and he's been on the phone all day trying to see what the situation was in New York, in the New York-Baltimore game, I should say, in Baltimore, and that took a lot of time. And then, of course, this game was in jeopardy because it was raining in New York all morning. So the baseball season is underway, and so far for sports director George Balamasi, it's been nothing but one big headache.
Play ball.
Play ball, okay. Milwaukee and Cleveland, it's still a 4-1 ball game after 6.5 innings of play. Dave May hit a home run for Milwaukee with none on in the 7th inning. And in the National League, Montreal and St. Louis have completed 6. Mike Jorgensen hit a home run for Montreal with 1 on in the 1st inning. Philadelphia and Chicago after 7. Carlson continues to pitch for Philadelphia. And Jenkins started for Chicago, but Hands is now pitching in the 7th. Greg Luzinski hit a solo home run for Philadelphia with none on in the 4th. Los Angeles and Cincinnati 1-1 after 5, but now in the 6th inning, Duke Sims has hit a home run, so it's at least 2-1 in favor of Los Angeles. Sutton continues to throw for the Dodgers. Billingham and now Hall on the mound for Cincinnati. Dennis Menke also hit a home run for the Reds with none on in the 2nd inning. Later on the West Coast, 2 night games. San Francisco is at Houston. and that'll be Juan Marichal, 18-11, pitching for the Giants, and pitching for Houston, Don Wilson, who finished the last season at 16-10, and in the other night game, Atlanta will go against San Diego.
Pirates here trailing 4-0, and we've got a new pitcher. Dave Justy will come on to pitch, replacing Dock Ellis. Justy did not have a very good spring at all. Really pitched well. He came up with a very bad leg on the trip down to Venezuela. Did not pitch for about a week. And had some problems at the tail end of spring training. This featured pitch, of course, is the palm ball. Has had about 56 saves over the last 2 years. And it's been one of the key reasons why the Pirates have captured 2 consecutive Eastern Division titles. His performance in the World Series and the playoff games, letter perfect. He did not give up a run in any of the ball games that he worked in, 2 in the World Series. And all 4 in the playoff series, and he saved 3 games that the Pirates won. One of the best trades that Joe Brown has made over the years. Dave Ricketts coming along with him, and we gave up Kyle Taylor. Now Dave comes on for the first time, and he'll look at Chuck Mcgraw. He'll be batting for the first time. That's right-handed. He's a left-handed thrower. Ellis went 6 innings. He's charged with 4 runs, all of them earned. Gave up 6 hits, one of them a home run by Kranepool. He walked 2, and he struck out 5. Mcgraw first ball inning, traps Richie to third. Hebner in, throws off balance low, and it's not in time. Hebner made a very poor play on the ball. Got a slow start, made a poor throw in the dirt. Robertson came up with it. We'll wait and see what the ruling is. They're going to give him a base hit. I think Hebner would have to tell you that he might have made that play a little bit better. Bud Harrelson, the leadoff batter, has singled in 3 times his out. Mets are leading 4-0. There's a lay now. Mcgraw goes to the very heavy jacket as a runner at first base. Hebner in looking for Bud. Harrelson scores it out. It's on the first base side. Robertson has it. Makes the play to first. Goes wild. A fine play by Stennett, who had to come on the foul side of first across the bag to make the play. Sacrifice. Goes 1-4. Harrelson's out. Moving down to the second is Mcgraw. The Mets continue to play for another big run here. Pirates offensively have really not threatened in this ball game. We've had runners at first and second. That's as much as we've gone. That was in the second inning. Since then, we have gone down harmlessly in an order. Ken Boswell. 0 for 3, robbed of a base hit and a good catch by Clemente. That was in the 5th inning. Pitch is high by Dave. Ball 1. Justy, 31 years of age, and was right in the middle of all the problems in the strikes, and did not get a chance to work out. He's getting shaped during the season now. Tremendous pressure on this guy during all the negotiations. 1 ball, 1 strike. The count on Kenny Boswell. Dave had 30 saves last year, 26 the year before. Quick throw to second. They've got him picked off. Hernandez runs him down to Hebner, who makes the tag on Mcgraw right on the baseline. Dale Justy got Mcgraw flat-footed, and Hernandez snuck in behind him. Had a very easy pickoff. Pitchers don't usually get that far, and they're not familiar where second base is, I guess. 2 down, nobody on now, and a big runner taken off the base pass. The count on Boswell is 1 ball and 1 strike. Those are the kind of plays you like to see happen. Gets you out of jam. Good play by Justy and Jackie Hernandez. That went 1 to 6 to 5. Here's 1-1 pitch to Boswell. Check swing, taps back to the mound. Justy on an easy play, throws him out at third. Dave gets him out in order in the 7th inning. No runs on a hit, no errors, and nobody left. We go to the top of the 8th inning. And the New York Mets lead 4-0.
The Los Angeles Lakers came through in Milwaukee on Friday night to break a 7-game, 2-year losing streak at the Milwaukee Arena. The Lakers knocked off Milwaukee 108-105 in their NBA Western Division Championship playoff series, and so that victory gives the Lakers a 2-1 lead in that playoff series. Los Angeles has now evened up the home court advantage as they head back to California for Sunday's fourth game of the playoffs. Boston will be trying to even up the Eastern Division playoffs on Sunday also when they play Game 2 against the Knicks in New York. Very important ball game for Los Angeles to win, not only obviously because they broke that long losing streak in Milwaukee, but because they do have the home court advantage, and that means that the pressure at the moment is on Milwaukee. Gail Goodrich wound up with 30 points for the Lakers. Jim McMillan added 27 for Los Angeles. Kareem Jabbar was the high point man of the game as he scored 33 for Milwaukee. However, he had 6 shots blocked by Wilt Chamberlain, and that has seemed to be the key how those two Giants do in this series.
Well, the Pirates are down 4-0. We've got 2 more lifts at Chuck Mcgraw, who has come out to replace Tom Seaver, the starter who went 6 innings and kept the door on us with 5 hits, no walks, and 6 strikeouts. Dock Ellis started for the Pirates, and in 6 innings of pitching, he charged with 6 hits, 4 runs, all of them earned. A home run by Eddie Kranepool after a walk to Jim Fregosi in the 6th inning. He struck out 5 and he walked 2. Pirates last year, the first time they faced the Mets, was shut out 1-0. We came right back the next day with Steve Blass beating Jerry Grote and 2-0. Blass, by the way, will go against Gary Jensen tomorrow. Pirates were shut out quite a bit early in the season. Matter of fact, in the month of April, we were shut out 4 times in the month of April. We didn't start hitting until about May, and we really laid it on in June and July. Hernandez leads it off for the Pirates here in the 8th against Mcgraw. Takes the pitch high for a ball. Jackie's had a single 2 times at bat. This is the first time he's facing Chuck Mcgraw. Pitch down low. The count is 2-0. Fastball way up high. The count is 3-0. Pitcher Hernandez breaks down the chute, taking all the way, strike 1. Mcgraw and his wife, they have 1 child, and a pretty good-sized dog that they carry along, and they live in a trailer down in Florida. Kind of a nomad life for a ball player, but you make it easier by bringing your own house with you. He does that. Finds the strike zone again, and the count is full on Hernandez, taking all the way, 3 balls, 2 strikes. Lead off batter in the Pirates 8. The Mets lead 4-0. Line drive, right into the glove of Fregosi. Good play by Fregosi. That's what you do or you don't. You do. Jackie hit the ball very low. To Fregosi's right, he was off the line about 5 feet. If it gets by him, it's a double sure, but it didn't get by him. Gene Clowns will pinch hit for Dave Justy. Activity in the Pirates bullpen, Ramon Hernandez and Bob Field. The battle for the left-handed spot in the bullpen continues to go on, and these 2 guys are still trying to solve it. Klein takes the strike. This little guy was one of the bright spots in the Pirates' successes last year. Hit over 300 again. Can run, does the job for you defensively. Screwball down low, 1 ball, 1 strike. 4-0. New York out in front. 1 down in the Pirates' 8th inning. Overhand curveball, a little bit too high. The count is 2 balls and a strike. Well, Justy goes 1 inning, and he allowed nothing. 1 hit to pick the guy off at second base. Ball foul back on the screen. The count is 2 balls, 2 strikes on Gene Klein. Today, very disappointing, 15,893 for opening day. The weather has not been too good. 45 degrees at game time and raining. Screwball is swung on and that's strike 2. That's the second strikeout strikeout by Mcgraw, and the 8th of the ball game by New York mid-pitching. Pirates have not had a base runner since the 5th inning, and he was erased on a double play, and the last one before that was the top of the 3rd inning, or the top of the 3rd, when Stennett opened the inning with a single. He retired 17 in a row, the 8 of a double play in the 5th inning. Stennett takes the pitch, ball 1. Fastball by Mcgraw, right at the knees, and the count is even at 1 ball and 1 strike. Mcgraw missed outside. 2 balls and a strike. Ball looped into right field, not too deep. Staub coming on, and he has time to get there. He's got it. Yeah, another 1-2-3 inning. And the Pirates now have had 18 men go down in a row since the 3rd inning. 4-0 is the score. The Mets are out in front. And run down in the inning. No runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left. And we go to the bottom half of the 8th inning. New York 4 and the Pirates nothing.
Okay, checking the scoreboard. Montreal and St. Louis after 6. It's still 2-0 Montreal. Mike Jorgensen to hit a home run for the Expos. Philadelphia and Chicago after 8 innings of play. It's the Phillies 2-1. Carlton pitching for Philadelphia. He continues to pitch. Jenkins and Hands for Chicago. Greg Luzinski hit a home run for Philadelphia in the 4th inning. At Los Angeles, a 1-1 tie. And that ball game is now in the 6th inning. Cincinnati manager Sparky Anderson was asked before the game, do you expect starting pitcher Jack Billingham to go 9 innings against the Dodgers in view of the strike?
Well, the Dodgers aren't too rough on him. I think if he'd have an easy first part of the ball game, probably. But as Jack's already got the message from the rest of the pitchers, he said, I heard your captain hook, quick hook. So I do hook my starters fairly quick later on in the ball game anyway. So probably wouldn't have... Maybe if he don't finish, he wouldn't have finished anyway 10 days prior to that, because I try early, especially early in the season, to watch my starters real close and go to my bullpen, because I do have Clay Carroll and plus a real good bullpen with McLaughlin right now.
Okay, my manager Sparky Anderson of Cincinnati, and Billingham did not last the whole game. He was pulled out in the 6th inning for Tom Hall. Dennis Menke hit a home run for Cincinnati, and perhaps hurrying the exit of Billingham was a solo home run in the 7th inning by Duke Sims of Los Angeles. So the Dodgers lead that ball game at least 2-1 after 6 innings of play at Cincinnati. Elsewhere, St. Louis has scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 7th inning to tie that ball game with Montreal. Montreal scored a pair of runs in the top of the 1st inning. Shaw is now pitching for St. Louis in the 8th inning. Chicago and Kansas City still a scoreless battle in that ball game after 7. And that Chicago and Kansas City, that is kind of an interesting game, notably, as we pointed out earlier, due to the fact that a lot of these pitchers have not been throwing for quite a while, and it will make it extremely difficult for them to round back into shape. And usually, hitters can hit any time. You'll notice that in the scores of spring exhibition games. And as a result, this one is an interesting game.
He has dominated. Ball fouled out of play. 1 ball, 1 strike on Tommie Agee. Hernandez sent the winner, of course, down in Puerto Rico, pitching winter ball there. So he's in good shape. Fastball way inside. Pretty good stuff on that pitch. Almost got away from Sanguillen and almost got Agee. 2 balls and a strike. Raymond does not have command of the English language too much, and conversations are short and very limited with him. Ball fouled off to our right. The count is 2 balls, 2 strikes. Roberto Clemente has had a big effect, I think, on this fellow. On the other hand, Jackie is shortstop. He's kind of taken him under his wing. The 2-2 pitch to Agee, curve way inside. The count is full at 3-2. Lead-off batter in the Mets 8th inning. They lead 4-0. They got 2 runs in the 2nd on 3 consecutive hits in a sacrifice fly, and 2 more in the 6th on a walk after 2 out and a home run by Kranepool. Now Hernandez walked Agee on the 3-2 pitch, and that'll bring up Rusty Staub. Third walk of the afternoon, all by Pirate pitching. 2 by Dock Ellis, and then 1 by Ramon Hernandez. Rusty Staub is singled, drawn an intentional walk, and flies to center field. Hernandez Hernandez has been very tough on left-handed hitters. Look at first. The fastball bounces to shortstop. We may get through. Hernandez, Stennett pulls him off the bag. They get an out there, but they'll not get the play at first. Very poor throw by Hernandez. And only good body control by Stennett prevented that ball from going into the right field corner. Yeah, we were trying for two, but we got one. Pirates looking rusty. The layoff certainly hasn't helped them at all. One down, Cleon Jones, the batter. Mets lead 4-0 in the 8th inning, and the runner now is Rusty Staub at first. Taking a faster runner off the base in Tommie Agee. That's a stolen two this afternoon. Agee in the 3rd inning and Harrelson in the 5th. Pitch is taken by Jones, strike one. The Eastern Division of the National League is going to be a pretty good one this year. Nobody's going to run away and hide. 2 ball missed outside, 1 ball and 1 strike. Cardinals will be a tough ball club. Chicago is going to be tougher. This ball club, the Mets are a very strong ball club now, and of course the Pirates do. Tough to repeat. Fastball right on the inside corner, cracked in there at the letters, backs Jones off the plate. But it's strike 2, says Kenny Burkhardt. Activity in the Pirate bullpen. Looks like Bob Miller will start to loosen down there. Mets lead 4-0, and the Pirates have the 2, 3, and 4 batters coming up in the ninth. Fastball, swing and a miss, strike 3. Hernandez turned loose a pretty good pitch and struck out Cleon Jones. That'll bring up Jim Fregosi. He's had quite a debut here at Shea Stadium. First time in the National League. The Mets, it appears, have got themselves a pretty good ball player. He doubled over the head of Clemente in the 2nd, scored a run. Flied to right field in the 4th, blocked and scored in the 6th. Now he's driven one in and he scored one. Made a fine play in the field off Jackie Hernandez. Here's the pitch to Fregosi. Down at the knees, ball 1. First being held by Robertson. Look there by Hernandez. Here's the pitch to Fregosi. Right at the letters. 1 ball, 1 strike. Now, baseball season 2, the chant of Let's Go Mets coming up. The time we've heard it this afternoon. Jim McAndrew working in the New York Mets bullpen. 2 balls. Right on the corner of the count is 1 ball, 2 strikes. You're kind of a hitter that punches the ball around a bit. According to Bill Rigney down in spring training, talking to him, but he hit the ball to right field good. He showed that to Clemente. He went over his head in the 2nd inning. 2 ball missed outside. The count is 2-2 on Fregosi. Fregosi has been around for a while, but he's not an old man. He's only 30 years of age. Been in 6 All-Star games. Call. Sanguillen wants to talk to Hernandez. A lot of big names have moved around in the major leagues. This fellow, certainly an all-star, has moved a bit. Sam Mcgraw from Pittsburgh has gone from Cleveland to San Francisco. Lee May to Houston. Joe Morgan traded up there. You know, you got to have a scorecard this year on the club commit. I'd add that the Pirates are presenting a very fine one. Saw the new scorebook and also the new Pirate yearbook. It's a real beauty. 2 balls, 2 strikes. 2 ball way outside. The full count of 3-2. Hernandez walked the opening inning, walking Agee. Staub forced in the 2nd, struck out Jones. 2 down, the count of 3-2. Staub will be going on the 5th. Robertson informing Hernandez he's playing behind Rusty. Making sure that Hernandez is aware that he is playing behind Staub. Didn't want to cause a balk or a wild throw. Here's the pitch. Staub is going. The ball is taken, strike 3. Good sweeping curveball that fools Fregosi completely. No runs, no hits, no errors, and 1 left. Well, we've completed 8, and the Mets lead 4-0. Well, a cold day here at Shea Stadium, and the baseball has been dominated by the pitchers, as you might expect. Certainly from the standpoint of the Mets, they're dominated with Seaver showing no signs of the injuries that plagued him down in spring training. Dock Dock Ellis gets played by the long ball in the 6th inning. Painful hit one off him. You're not going to see too many pitches going the route anytime over the first week, I'm sure. And the big problem, Bill Verdon stated to Bob Robertson's name is the fact that he wanted to make sure that one thing they didn't have were a lot of injuries early in the year. Willie Stargell will continue to perform here, and he'll be coming up in this inning, hopefully. Hopefully about it, he'll be the third batter. The Oliver, Clemente, and Stargell. So we need 4 runs somehow to continue this ballgame. Well, before we go any farther, let's pause 20 seconds for station identification on the Pirates Baseball Network.
American Forces Radio in the Canal Zone. This is SCN 790 and 1420.
Well, you know what it is. Tuesday, April the 18th will be opening day for the Pirates against the Cubs. Game time is 1:35. If you have tickets for opening day, the original opening day, and season tickets dated April the 6th, that would be, they'll be honored for opening day on Tuesday. Fans holding tickets for the 18th of April, the regularly scheduled game with the Cubs, or other home dates that were canceled due to the strike, should exchange them for another date on the Pirates' home schedule. Opens up to the Pirates in the top of the ninth. Mcgraw trying to put it away. Sends a fastball up the knees, taking strike one. Seaver started. He's the pitcher of record for New York, and Dock Ellis on the hook for the loss. Fly ball to left field, hanging up out there. Cleon Jones coming on. He's got time to get there. He's got it. Now, Yogi Berra's debut as a manager for the New York Mets. Pretty good one so far for him. For Bill Verdon, not so tasteful. We're down 4-0. But I was going to say we have 161 left. We don't. We got 152 left. So what is it? 155, I guess. We'll let the mathematics go to later. You figure that one out, you know? I think we got 154 left. That's what we have. Bob Clemente, hitless in 3 taps at that. Again, Seaver facing Mcgraw for the first time, takes the pitch outside for a ball. Mcgraw's fastball popped up the right field, not too deep. Staub calling for it. Boswell there also, and there's almost a collision. Boswell got out of the way, and Staub made the grab. 2 up, 2 down very quickly in the Pirates' 9th inning. The last batter between Mcgraw and combined shutout victory with Seaver and himself of 4-0. Willie has hurt Mcgraw over the last couple of years. Really plagued him with some big home runs. Takes a fastball, strike one, Willie does. Stargell 0 for 2. Pirates have had only 5 hits. And have not had a base runner since the 5th inning. He was erased on a double play. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. The 20 batters in a row have been retired now. Curveball outside. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Stargell. We stranded Stennett in the 3rd inning. He opened the inning with a single. Then 3 batters went out in a row. Foul back out of play. So we've had 20 in a row go down with the end of that double play in the 5th inning. Not much right home about. But then this is the 3rd game of the season. There'll be other days. Ball fouled out of play. Mcgraw going to the rosin bag, now to the mud around the mound, wiping the hand off, trying to get this last strike past Willie Stargell. A wind up a 1-2 pitch. Curve, strike 3, that is it. So Mets with a very fine home opener here. Got some great pitching from Chuck Mcgraw and Tom Seaver. They beat it 4-0. Dale DeMar is another another day for the Pirates. Steve Glass will go against Gary Jeffrey in this ball game, and highlighted strictly by strong pitching of Tom Seaver and Ted Mcgraw. They combined to limit the Pirates to just 5 hits. As I said, retired the last 21 batters in a row with the aid of a double play in the 5th inning. Pirates hitting offensively gets hits from Al Oliver, one from Rennie Stennett, one from Manny Sanguillen, one from Jackie Hernandez, and Dock Ellis, the pitcher, got the only other. Tom Seaver won the ball game. He is 1-0 in 6 innings, 5 hits, and Ted Mcgraw picked up the save. He finished the final 3 innings. Ellis won 6 innings, charged with 6 hits and 4 runs, struck out 5. He walked 2. Home run by Kranepool in the 6th was the only one of the ball game. It came after 2 outs and a walk to Fregosi, then a home run by Kranepool. Justy won an inning, and Ramon Hernandez also an inning. And tomorrow's another day. A reminder that...
Okay, our thanks to Nellie King and Bob Prince for their description of this ball game, as the New York Mets have won their opening game of the 1972 season, a 4-0 shutout over the defending world champion Pittsburgh Pirates. Let's take a look at the scoreboard then, right down the line. In the American League, one final score is in. Milwaukee has defeated Cleveland 5-1. 5 runs, 10 hits, no errors for the Brewers. A run, 7 hits, no errors for Cleveland. Parsons and Sanders for Milwaukee. Gaylord, Perry, and Riddleberger for Cleveland. Parsons the winner, 1-0. Perry got the loss. His record is 0-1. 2 home runs hit in that ball game, both of them by Milwaukee. Dave May hit one with none on in the 7th, and Ron Theobald hit one for the Brewers with none on in the 9th. Both of those, of course, first home runs of the season for both players. In that Milwaukee-Cleveland game, the key hit, Dave May's 2-run rally in the 5th inning with an infield single, and then added a solo homer in the 7th inning as the Brewers spoiled Gaylord Perry's American League debut by downing the Indians 5-1. The score was tied 1-1 in the 5th. Rick Auerbach and May reached Perry for singles. Auerbach then took third on a force-out and scored when George Scott grounded to third, and then he beat the throw to the plate. Bill Voss capped that rally with a run-scoring single. So Milwaukee 5-1 over Cleveland. Boston and Detroit have finished 7 innings of play. Detroit leads that one by the score of 3-2. Patton pitching for Boston, Lolich and Tatum for Detroit. Eddie Brinkman hit a home run for Detroit with 1 on in the 2nd. The New York-Baltimore game postponed because of wet grounds. Chicago and Kansas City continue to battle in a scoreless tie after 7.5 innings of play. Wood and Drago, the pitchers in that ball game. Minnesota and Oakland just getting underway at Oakland. Blyleven pitching for Oakland, and on the mound for Oakland is Holtzman. Blyleven pitching for Minnesota. Blyleven finished the year last season at 16-15. Kenny Holtzman 9-15 for Chicago. Later on, Texas will be playing at California. Dick Bosman 12-16 for the Rangers. Andy Messersmith 20-13 last year with the Angels. 2 final scores in the National League. The game you just heard, New York, 4 runs, 6 hits, and no errors. Pittsburgh 0-5-0. Ellis, Justy, and Hernandez for Pittsburgh. Seaver and Mcgraw for New York. Kranepool hit the only home run. That was for the Mets with 2 on in the 6th inning. Make that with 1 on in the 6th inning. Seaver, the winner, his record is 1-0. Ellis, the loser, is 0-1. Montreal and St. Louis are tied at 2-2 after 7 innings of play. Stoneman pitching for Montreal. Gibson, Santorini, and Shaw for St. Louis. Mike Jorgensen hit a home run for Montreal with 1 on in the 1st inning. The other final score, just in, Philadelphia beat Chicago 4-2. 4 runs, 10 hits, no errors for Philadelphia. Chicago, 2 runs, 4 hits, and 2 errors. Carlton and Horner for Philadelphia. Jenkins, Hands, and Hamilton for Chicago. Carlton the winner, 1-0. Hands the loser, 0-1. 17,005 at that ball game. Los Angeles and Cincinnati are tied at 1-1 after 5. Menke and Sims hit home runs in that ball game. Later start San Francisco at Houston and Atlanta at San Diego. This broadcast was authorized under rights granted by New York and Pittsburgh solely for the entertainment of the AFRTS listening audience. Any publication, rebroadcast, or other use of the descriptions and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the Mets and the Pirates is prohibited. Final score again, New York 4, Pittsburgh nothing. This is Ken Allen speaking for engineer Tom King. This is the American Forces Radio and Television Service.